439-9372, 439-WERC. I'm Mark Roberts. We're talking about the Ashley Jones murder trial, the 15-year-old who killed her grandfather, killed her aunt, attempted to murder her grandmother, attempted to murder her 10-year-old sister along with her ex-boyfriend. It's quite possible this could go to the jury as we speak. Meanwhile, I'm trying to find the cause of why kids are killing. Does Dr. Sybil Arts, the renowned author of Sex, Power, and the Violent Schoolgirl, have the answer? She says girls are becoming more violent. It goes back to the sexual role models like Barbie, G.I. Joe, and Action Man, and I'm a little concerned. I have a 6-year-old, Mallory Brooke Roberts, who every Christmas, every birthday, she gets a Barbie. And if you go into her room tonight, you'll find those Barbies decapitated. So should I be concerned now? Am I turning my 6-year-old into a serial murderer? 439-9372, 439-WERC. Henry in Homewood, you're next on News Radio 960 WERC.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me. I'm in Giuliano's restaurant, and you've been fading in and out while I've been listening. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. Go ahead, Henry.
Okay. The guy that called in concerning the lack of discipline, I agree with him totally. Children get their attitudes before the age of 10 years old. And if a child is not disciplined correctly, then what happened will happen again. It's the lack of discipline.
All right. Now, Henry, when you say discipline, are you suggesting that it's okay to spank?
Of course.
And at what age do you stop?
I would say at the age of, when a child understands the punishment and when it doesn't work anymore.
Well, the reason I'm asking, I can remember Mark Jr. being about, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, and I would discipline him. I would spank him, and then he would look at me and hit me back and say, "We don't hit," as he got these mixed messages from daycare and from school.
Well, that's where the problem is. They've taken God out of the school, and they've taken the discipline out.
All right. Henry, I appreciate the comment here on News Radio 960 WERC. Well, what do you think of Henry's comment? Let's go now to Gloria in Gadsden. You're next on News Radio 960 WERC. Hi.
You ever heard of meanness?
Meanness.
Just being mean.
Just being evil.
Yes.
Mean people, bad people.
Yes.
It's a problem with a heart.
Yes, and it's taught at home.
Well, if it's taught at home, as we talk about the Ashley Jones trial, are you pointing blame at mom and dad?
The whole home structure.
So you go with the defense that says that it was because she was abused. She was subjected to maybe some sexual, some mental abuse. It was a dysfunctional family.
No, I think there are some people that's just mean.
What about Barbie now? How do you weigh in on that?
That's a lot of bull.
So you don't think that I should go home and remove all the Barbie dolls and make sure we don't have any other similar dolls that would turn my 6-year-old into a serial killer?
I don't believe so.
Gloria, have a nice evening.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go now to Wayne. You're next on News Radio 960 WERC.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
Just a couple of things. Number one, you're doing fine with your daughter. Number two, that lady's just a bunch of psycho mumbo-jumbo right there. And as far as the biggest problem with kids nowadays, and they're talking about the family life, but it's a lack of dads being in the kids' lives. We were talking about this girl's mom and daddy. She wasn't being raised by her mom and daddy, was she?
I believe she was living with her grandparents.
Well, let me just tell you, I was teaching Sunday school a few weeks ago, and I was teaching teenagers, and the teenagers got to talking about how they had a real communication problem with their parents. So we decided to analyze this and really get to figuring it out. And what it turned out to being, you children do not understand the meaning of the word no. Your parents don't understand the meaning of the word no. The parents would tell the kids no to something. The kids would just pitch a fit, keep arguing. The parents would give in a little at a time, to where if when the parents told them no, if the kids pitched a fit, take the car keys from them.
Well, my kids don't have their driver's license yet, so we take the TV away from them. Now, it's such a strange world. We take the computer away from them now.
But you're teaching your daughter the meaning of the word no.
Well, I hope I'm not teaching her how to become a murderer with Barbie every time it's a birthday.
And you understand the meaning of the word no. It's not a negotiating point. It's a no. Did your daddy know the meaning of the word no?
Back in those days, he would look at me with the evil eye. He didn't have to spank. He didn't have to do anything. He would say nobody would look at me with that evil eye. And I look at my kids and try to do the same thing, and they laugh at me. It's embarrassing.
Get out of here,
No,
man.
I'm serious. I look at my kids, and I tell them no, and I try to look mean, and they just laugh at me. And I'm doing a, obviously I failed as a father.
You're being too nice a guy. It's just what it is. You love your kids, you work hard, and you don't want your kids upset. So when you tell them no or you give them that evil eye and they laugh at you, there's no repercussions to
Well, I
that.
tell them, look, wait till your mother gets home.
There you go.
All right. Wayne, I appreciate the comment.
Thanks.
You have a nice one. Take care. Coming up, we're going to talk about slavery reparations. Do you agree with compensation? What would be a fair amount? How could the U.S. pay for it? How much is enough? Do you believe that African-American descendants of slaves, I'm almost afraid even to use that term because I'm afraid of offending somebody. Because we have African Americans that are not black. Should we say Negro Americans? Would that be the better term to use? Black Americans. I don't know. We live in such a hyphenated society. I'm trying to figure out what I am. I'm a little English. I'm a little Scottish-Irish, a little French. I've also been told I'm a little Indian. Since I hail originally from Louisiana, we don't even know what tribe. I'm probably a Takapaw, which were cannibals. So I'm probably a little Attakapaw. So when it comes to hyphenated terms, I'm an Attakapaw tonight. But should Negro American descendants of slaves, should they be entitled to reparations from the U.S. government, from states, from surviving businesses that profited from slavery? Now, coming up a little after 8 o'clock, Raymond Winbush, who is the director of the Fisk University Race Relations Institute in Nashville, will tell us a little bit about Fisk University's conference on reparations that was held just this past week. What is happening now with this movement in the U.S., not only here but worldwide? Do you realize as we speak in Baton Rouge, they're preparing for a statewide meeting on this issue of reparations? As they prepare for a national meeting on this, a national conference on slavery reparations in June. NCOBRA is actually the group that's spearheading this, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations. So how much is enough? You tell us. 439-9372, 439-WERC. I'm Mark Roberts. We will run off to your phone calls next on News Radio 960 WERC.
That ain't working, that's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Money for nothing and the chicks for free.
439-9372, 439-WERC. Do you believe African-American descendants of slaves are entitled to reparations from the U.S. government, states, and surviving businesses that profited from slavery? What do you think about that? Let's say hello to Charles in Birmingham. You're next on News Radio 960 WERC.
The way that I feel about it, small business owner, and I've spoken to other small business owners in my little group, the first dime that you're saying U.S. government pays, it's actually us, the taxpayers, the government owns no money, pays to any slave descendant, if they could even prove they were descendants of the slaves. I and several of my associates will stop paying federal tax any way that we can.
How will this bring the races closer together?
Listen, you're not going to bring races closer together. You talk about racist. You've got 20 million people telling the other 260 million people what to do. Let's get real here.
If we do pay, how much should we pay?
No, we won't. You misunderstood me.
Well, I understand you, but once again, what would be a fair amount if we did pay?
There is no fair. What do you mean fair amount? Where do you even come up with that statement?
Well, I'm on your side now, Charlie.
I understand, but I mean, you're trying to be sort of like the devil's advocate and say, what's a fair pay? There is no fair pay. We don't owe them anything. I tell you what, how about they load them all up on a big boat and carry them all back to Africa?
Well,
my
now
my folks didn't come here till 1888.
That's a
And
that's a
they
racist
we have not
statement,
received one
Charles.
thing.
That's a racist statement. Load them all up on a boat and send them back to
Absolutely,
Africa. Well, all right.
it's racist.
Look, I don't want to take any racist comments. Let's move on now to James. You're next on News Radio 960 WERC. Hi, James.
Yes, I was just thinking about the guy that's got through speaking there. There's millions of blacks, whites around here think the same way he does. But the point is this. They're paying reparation right now to a set of people. They get $3 billion a year, and they ain't did nothing for this country.
What are you referring to, James?
What?
Who are you referring to?
Who do you think? Who do you think get $3 billion? I know who gets it, and I also know who get $2 billion.
We have already paid reparations through the welfare program. We don't owe anything.
And to give these people $3 billion a year, and they haven't did a thing for this country. Now, you take the blacks. Now, they done worked 215 years in this country without getting paid. Everything in this country was built by black, and that includes the White House. Even Washington, D.C. was laid down, the foundation was laid down by a black man.
So we should pay slavery reparations.
You should pay the descendants of the blacks who built this country. I keep hearing the radio
How much do we pay?
Listen.
How much, James?
What?
How much?
I just keep, and then you keep saying, how you going to know who to pay? Well, that's very easy
How
who
much
to pay.
compensation, James?
Look, it's very easy who to pay because all the black people in this country are named after the slave
Is
master.
James listening to me tonight?
What?
Are we having a dialogue?
Yes.
Are you listening to what I'm saying tonight?
What are you saying?
I'm asking you, if you agree with compensation, what would be a fair amount?
Well, first you must understand this. The man just said a while ago.
If you agree with compensation, James, what would be a fair amount?
Well, all right, let's say $10 a day for 250 years, 215 years.
And where's the money coming from, James?
From the same place you send the $3 billion over to Israel. You send $3 billion here, they ain't did nothing.
We don't have that kind of cash.
Well, you do it every 12 months, mister. You send $3 billion to Israel. Well, I know all about this country, and I know my history.
All right, James. Thanks for the call. Have a great evening. If slavery and the various forms of discrimination that followed, are those the reasons why blacks have trailed so far behind success and the reason why we should pay? $10 a day, as James suggested? Is that how much? I mean, how do we determine the businesses that benefited? I mean, can you imagine the amount of research to identify the companies, the families, to determine how much money was made by their ancestors and then how much? Can any amount of restitution make up for slavery or race relations? I mean, how much cash does it take to settle the score? The damage that the proponents like James that you just heard, the damage that the proponents say fall under economic, cultural, social, psychological damage. So if that's true, if we carry that into the present, how do you put a dollar amount on that? James put $10 a day. If slavery destroyed African civilizations, how do we put a dollar amount on that? Let's go to Marion. You're next on News Radio 960 WERC.
Hey, guy.
How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
I think, like you said, that through the welfare we have paid and paid again. I think that what we should offer the people a good education, try to get them into the workforce where they will produce a revenue.
Well, haven't we already been working on that?
We've already been through this too, but that's what I'm saying is, make people productive, not just somebody who'll sit under a shade tree and drink a lemonade and collect a check. We got enough of that going on now.
Marion, thanks for the call. Let's move on now to Charlotte in Gadsden. You're next on News Radio 960 WERC. Hi, Charlotte.
Listen, are we going to give reparation to the Indians too? I mean, at one point, were they not trying to be made into slaves too? Did they get reparation?
We have given money to the Indians over the years.
Okay. My thinking is go ahead, give the reparation. I mean, 2 weeks ago I would have raised Cain about it, but, go ahead, pay the people, let them do whatever they're going to do with the money, and then see what else they have to whine and complain about.
Problem, Charlotte, is we don't have the cash. All right, Charlotte, thanks for the call. There are no living victims, no living perpetuators of American slavery today, but it does still exist in Africa. Should African American descendants of slaves be entitled to reparations from the U.S. government, from states, and surviving businesses that profited from slavery. We're going to be talking with Raymond Winbush, the director of the Fisk University Race Relations Institute in Nashville, a little after 8 o'clock. 439-9372, 439-WERC, and we'll, of course, take your phone calls. News straight ahead on News Radio 960 WERC.
Mr. Roberts, I just wanted to call and congratulate you on your show tonight. Outstanding. I loved your questions. I loved your insight. They ought to have you on at night all the time. Fantastic show. Loved it. It was just, it was great.
We have a group of lawyers that includes O.J. Simpson's dream team attorney, Johnny Cochran. They are preparing to sue the U.S. government surviving business that profited from slavery for reparations. It's called the Reparations Assessment Group. It's headed by Harvard Law professor Charles Ogletree. Also includes Alexander Pires Jr. Now, this is the attorney who won a $1 billion settlement for black farmers. $1 billion. Who said that they were discriminated against by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Richard Scruggs, I don't know if you recall, this attorney won a $368 billion settlement, a settlement for states from the tobacco companies. And their work now is part of a growing movement for reparations for the American descendants of African slaves. Now, supporters point to, the Native Americans and the Japanese Americans who were held in these camps back in World War II, as well as Holocaust survivors who will get settlements from Germany and Switzerland. Now, this is a quote from Ogletree. He made this recently in the Times of London. He says, "We want a change in America. We want full recognition and remedy of how slavery stigmatized, raped, murdered, and exploited millions of Africans through no fault of their own." You know, I read an article not too long ago in the Boston Globe where the writer Jeff Jacoby suggested that Negro Americans were actually lucky to have been brought to this nation even in chains because they were able to take full advantage of things that would never have been theirs in Africa. I mean, just think, can you tell me any more influential group in America than blacks? Anybody any more influential than, say, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Johnny Cochran, Spike Lee, at least as far as the media is concerned? Do you know of any other more advanced or influential group of black people on the face of the earth than Negro Americans? Now, some Negro Americans make a big deal about knowing about their heritage. Yet I would suggest that a lot of black Americans who are not only black, but maybe a little white, maybe a little Indian, maybe a little Mexican, maybe a little Asian, are quite different than most blacks in Africa. And as we look at Africa, the fact that native black Africans know their culture, they know their languages, has it helped them prevent war, the slave trades that continue to this day? Has their knowledge and pride of their heritage, their culture, stopped them from dying of AIDS? Now, don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with culture. But culture should not be the main emphasis. I interviewed John Zogby just the other day. Maybe you heard that interview. And it was an interview of it was a poll done on African Americans for Black History Month. And the poll, I can't remember the exact amount, but it showed that black Americans today don't really care that much about their heritage. So I'm submitting to you that this reparations movement is fringe. It's always been fringe. It always will be fringe. Do you believe that African Americans, that the descendants of slaves, are entitled to reparations from the U.S. government, from states, maybe from the state of Alabama? Boy, where are we going to get that cash, especially with proration? And maybe some of the surviving businesses that profited from slavery. Here's another point. We had 300,000 Union soldiers that gave their lives during the war between the states. 300,000. Isn't that enough as far as reparations? I mean, is it fair to come back and say to the descendants of those Union soldiers, on top of your great-grandfathers giving their lives, now you got to pay an increased tax to free the slaves? 439-9372, 439-WERC. What do you think about this? Coming up here very shortly, going to be talking with Raymond Winbush, director of the Fisk University Race Relations Institute in Nashville. He is packing his bags as we speak. He's going to be heading to Geneva. This is now not only a movement in the U.S., this is now becoming a worldwide movement. And they're talking about not only the U.S. paying, but maybe some European countries paying. I mean, but dollar figures, how much should we pay every black descendant of slaves in America? As with affirmative action, I'm submitting to you we've already paid through the welfare program. We've paid with the Union soldiers. And this is not going to bring the races any closer together. What we need to be focusing on are the social problems. Black on black crime, out of wedlock births, drugs, the problems with the black underclass. It's not coming from white racism. The problems are not coming here in Birmingham from white racism, but it's coming from the breakdown of the family that started back in the 60s. Let me give you just an example here. In 1950, 78% of blacks featured a married couple. Now, you can compare that to 88% of white households. The percentage of black children born to female-headed households was 23% in 1960. It rose to 62% by the end of the 80s. About 56% of those single families were living in poverty. Now, will our inner-city problems be solved by more apologies and reparations? Now, generations have separated slaves from their descendants as opposed to the victims of Nazi and Japanese American cases. So I don't think that you can compare what they're attempting to do today with Nazi and Japanese cases. 439-9372, 439-WERC. Coming up, we'll run off to your phone calls. We'll also talk to our guest, Raymond Winbush, director of the Fisk University Race Relations Institute in Nashville, as he tells us more about this movement and what's going to be taking place in Geneva as he flies out tomorrow. All coming up next on News Radio 960 WERC.
See the beauty in the tones of our skin. We gotta come together.
439 WERC 439-9372. I'm Mark Roberts. We're talking about slavery reparations. Do you believe African American descendants of slaves are entitled to reparations from the U.S. government, from states, from surviving businesses that profited from slavery? Let's say hello to Don. You're next on News Radio 960 WERC. Hi, Don.
Hi there, Mark. You know, I have never heard you before town, but I never listened to you because basically I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that it would only be more of the same, and I was absolutely right. I want to ask you something. You know,
I guess I should take that as a compliment.
I guess you should take it any way you want.
Okay.
I mean, any more jokes? Can I go on?
Go ahead, Don.
I mean, you're so cookie cutter that it's almost redundant. But I want to ask you this. I do want to talk about reparations a minute, but I just want to run somebody that I do by, like the cartoonist who's on and every other guy they put on. Y'all take so much time to, critique the black experience and what's wrong with blacks and why blacks this and what went wrong with that. But it's a taboo, no, to put a black behind the mic doing anything. I mean, it seems like it's supposed to be a one-way dialogue. You say you wasn't trying to entice anybody when the guy said load us all up on a boat and send us back. I think that's the whole purpose of the thing, because you want it to be a one-way thing. Jesse Jackson this and Al Sharpton that, and we paid. And I just wonder, it's so much high percentage of time is put into black people. Why don't y'all allow one to be on the air? I just don't get it.
Well, you're on the air.
I mean, I'm talking on this side of the mic, sure, and I can hang up, and then you and all the tomato heads can call in and say things, but why can't one defend themselves on a major network? I just always wondered.
I can't answer for the networks.
Mm-hmm. They bring you in from somewhere just to do what's already being done. But let me ask you this.
I tell you what, Don, I've got the phone banks lit up. I've got to move on. But if you want to get behind the microphone, take the time to learn how to do what I do.
Go on with this nonsense, you cookie cutter. Why they bring you in here? You already here.
All right, Don.
You already here. It's a joke, and you a joke, and all you potato heads. We got the black folks. We trying to take it all from you, boy. And we all go get you another joke, cause you a joke, and get us another one.
All right, Don. Hey, thanks for the call. Boy, that was a great call. Let's move on to Steve. You're next on News Radio 960 WERC.
Yes, that last guy kind of summed up just about everything I wanted to talk about, okay? First of all, this guy calls up chastising you because there's no black on the radio.
If Don wants to get behind the microphone, all he has to do is apply himself.
Precisely. And I'm sick and tired of everybody calling white racist when in fact it's actions like what these people are doing, these lawyers, these money-grubbing lawyers are doing, that they are the racists. There are no bigger racists than these people who continue to divide instead of unite.
Steve, I appreciate the call. We have our guests lined up now as we say hello to Raymond Winbush, who is the director of the Fisk University Race Relations Institute in Nashville. And as we speak, he is packing, getting ready to fly off to, I believe, Geneva. We'll let him explain that and what's going to be taking place. Hello, Mr. Winbush. Welcome aboard.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Have you had an opportunity to listen to any of the conversation?
Well, I heard like maybe 1.5. I don't envy your job.
Well, this is a position where if you're a white guy and you discuss slavery reparations and you take a conservative viewpoint, because of the PC world we live in, you're automatically targeted as a member of the Klan, which I'm not.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
You're a racist because you're a white guy talking about black issues, and you're accused of being judgmental. I mean, we all have opinions, and obviously my opinion is that this issue that you are involved in is wrong, and it's an issue that will not bring the races together, but it's going to divide the races even more.
Well, so you do agree that we're divided, right?
Well, not as much as you would suggest. I'm suggesting that this slavery reparations movement that you're pushing will divide the races even more.
Well, one of the persons that we invited to our conference last week was a gentleman by the name of Ken Alderson, who is white. And one of the things that was just fascinating is the fact he read a paper called "The Suing Governments for what is called Compensatory Damages is about as American as apple pie." I mean, in recent history, we've seen the Japanese do it. We've seen several Native American groups do it. I mean, the United Nations Charter talks about compensatory damages as a result of crimes against humanity.
But I think this particular case, with all due respect, Mr. Winbush, is totally different from the Nazi cases, from the Holocaust, and from the Japanese. There are no living victims and no living perpetuators of American slavery today.
Well, then that means that the Jewish groups that are now suing IBM for their parents, on behalf of their parents, because of the machinery that was placed by IBM in Nazi Germany. John Watson, the founder of IBM, provided the early technology. In fact, he tested some of early IBM technology by tracking Jews during the Holocaust.
I think the difference between what you're talking about and this particular Nazi case is so many generations have passed. It's been, 140 years?
What about Native Americans who are still suing?
So if we pay...
Let's come to a point. Americans have dealt with their treatment of the Japanese. Jews have dealt with their, or let's say Germany has dealt with the treatment of Jews. We have dealt with many issues involving Native Americans. The one that is left undone is the most blatant of all, and that's enslavement in the United States.
And so how has this affected you?
How's it affected me? How?
Well, I mean, you want to be paid, Mr. Winbush. How has
that's
this?
a misnomer. I don't think suing for reparations means that every African American is going to get paid. I don't want to get paid. I don't need the money.
All right, let me stop you here for just a moment. Most living Americans have no connection, direct or indirect, to slavery.
Yes, that's not true.
Russians, as we talk about immigrants that came to this country, we have Greeks, we have Polish, we have Hungarians, Cambodians, Koreans.
Right.
Are they also supposed to pay reparations?
Well, I think, again, we have to determine also who the defendants are. The United States government for over 300 years sanctioned segregation and slavery against African Americans. It wasn't until 1865 when the so-called Emancipation Proclamation was signed by Abraham Lincoln that the United States government said to cease and desist the institution of slavery.
How do we determine which blacks? How do we determine how much? How do we determine who pays?
The primary
this is so complicated. It's going to be impossible.
Well, how do we determine who pays for defense? The defense budget. All Americans do, don't they?
But once again, you just proved my point. Most living Americans don't have any connection, direct or indirect, to slavery, and it's unfair to ask these immigrants to America to be paying.
Well, I wouldn't agree with your premise because my great grandmother was a slave, and I remember her quite well. And I also know that because of what was done to her, there was effects that were still felt in our family.
All right, I tell you what, Mr. Winbush, we have several people that would like to talk with you. We'll take your calls coming up on News Radio 960 WERC.